How it all began, the story of Adam and Eve. Every story has a beginning. I bet you've read a lot of books that start with "Once upon a time," or "A long, long time ago in a land far, far away." But do you know how your story begins? You might think your story begins when you were born, but it goes back further than that. It goes back before you were born, before your parents were born, before even your parents' parents were born. In fact, it goes back before anyone was born, all the way back to the very beginning. And in the beginning, there was almost nothing. No people, no houses, no animals, no plants, no you, no me. But someone was there. His name was God, and he was ready to write the greatest story anyone has ever told. It's your story and my story, and the story of every person who has ever lived. It's a story about how much God loves his people, about how far away God seems sometimes, and about the lengths God would go to bring his people back. It's a story about God making wrong things right and dark things light. And as it turns out, it's also the story of Christmas. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to the beginning. In the beginning, there was nothing but God. So God looked around and said, "Let's take this nothing and make something." And that's just what he did. He saw darkness and said, "Sorry, darkness, I'm making light." Then he said, "Hey, that's good." He saw empty spaces and said, "Sorry, emptiness, I'm making planets." Then he said, "Hey, that's good too." He saw an empty earth and said, "Sorry, boring old empty earth, I'm making meadows and mountains, tiny creeks and enormous oceans, daffodils and dragonflies, hydrangeas and hippos." Then he said, "Hey, all of this is good." And last of all, he made the best part. Can you guess what it was? People. God made a man called Adam and a woman called Eve. They were special because God had made them to think like him and act like him. So God said, "This isn't just good. This is really good." Adam and Eve were like children to God, so it was no surprise that the first thing God did was to bless them. Adam and Eve lived every day with God in the garden he made for them, called Eden, until something went wrong. God had told Adam and Eve they could eat fruit from all the trees in Eden except one. "Don't eat from this tree," God said, "or the world will fill up with wrong and with darkness. Death will come very close, and I will seem very far away." But there was a snake in the garden who lied to Adam and Eve. That's right, a talking snake. "It's not wrong," the snake said, "and death won't come close at all. Just one bite. What could happen?" Eve picked the fruit and ate some. So did Adam. They chose their way over God's way, which is what we call sin. Immediately, everything changed. God knew what had happened, and his heart began to break. He went to check on Adam and Eve, and all they wanted to do was hide. They didn't want to see him anymore. So God gave them the terrible thing they wanted, to go away from God. God sent Adam and Eve out of the garden and away from Him. In the years to come, when life was difficult, when the ground was hard, and when the world was filled with wrong and with darkness, Adam would think back to that garden. He would remember the day when God was with him and with Eve. But God had a plan. He was making a way to make wrong things right, to come and to stay.